NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. I'm super excited to be joined by Tamer. We're literally going from Los Angeles to Cairo here. This is so incredible. I wish I was there with you, to be honest, but thanks so much for being here with us, and thank you for bringing Pause to New Filmmakers LA.
Thank you, and thank you for having me. And it's exciting to be here. It's not too late this time, which is fantastic. So
Yes,
I'm
yes.
happy for this interview. Yeah.
Yes, you look very fresh. Thank you.
Yeah, finally, yes, yeah.
Well, for those that haven't seen Pause, let's take a look at a clip.
ما كانش قصدي اقطعك. خليكي زي ما انت. طب استني، هو انت اسمك ايه؟ انا بسأل بس عشان لو الناس سألوا مين اللي نط اعرف اقول لهم.
Again, thank you so much for bringing your film. It's part of a very special program that celebrates films from Egypt and beyond with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. It's this wonderful celebration. For those that haven't seen your film, tell us a brief synopsis.
So Pause is a short film. It's about a young woman based out of Cairo who is suffering from depression, and she's looking to take her life when she's standing on a ledge and she's interrupted by an uninvited visitor. And I like to call it a therapeutic collision course between two people from different worlds. And it's just a moment where we can stop, reflect, and start to learn about two people and see how a conversation can save a life.
I couldn't get enough of it. Like, you know, you captured on film one of those moments that would change a life, you know, literally, and take people on a different path. I was just so in it. I couldn't take my eyes off of what I was seeing, because this is the only hope that there's one person that can outreach to a person going through a really difficult time. Where did the inspiration come for you in taking this story and turning it into a film?
So, this is actually based on a real situation that happened between me and someone else, and then also I did lose a friend to them taking their life, and it was very devastating. It took many years for me as well as my other friends and close friends to kind of overcome it and work through it. And this was a little bit of a therapy for me to kind of bring this story. And then also it was a question of where should I make this story, but the Middle East doesn't really talk about this conversation. We don't really have this conversation very often. And I wanted to bring that conversation to the forefront. So it was, the inspiration behind it was, yes, it was based on real events. And I saw the power of that conversation, how it could actually save a life and how it can change someone's life. But then also I humanize people in the Middle East. We don't see stories like this coming out of the Middle East at all. And I just really wanted to show that, yes, you can have like people from the Middle East can have feelings, they can have emotions, and they suffer the same way everybody else suffers anywhere else in the world. And then the other thing was I wanted it to feel like a conversation between two people. There's no romance, there's no nothing, just a conversation. And so that was also partly the reason why I had it two female actresses, because it was this thing where it could be these two people. Also, it could have been two men, or it could have been a man and woman, but I just really wanted it to feel like two women have a conversation, because you never see that sort of thing. You never see that sort of conversation that happens, especially from the Middle East. So it was kind of that, something for the Middle East, something for the West, and then also something for me, which is this kind of therapy that I wanted to have a conversation about with myself.
Well, I mean, this is so impressive. You touched upon all of those things, and you know, it's almost like a beautiful love letter you wrote to people of the Middle East, to have a conversation about things that, like you said, don't get expressed enough, aren't talked about enough, but yet behind closed doors, people are going through really hard times. And I commend you for making a story that is going to be so powerful to so many, not just from anyone that's been through it, but just the education behind it as well. Now, I love that obviously you mentioned that you chose, two, could have been two males, two females, and obviously these people, their dynamic was obviously so different. For you as a director, when you're creating something that has such high stakes like this, how do you work with your actors? And just by the way, your actors were fantastic.
So this is actually interesting because I work. So Tamer and both Monahela are very established actors in the Middle East. They're very well known. And when I had worked with the first person I had worked with and I had known from the past was Tamer, and we had actually kind of figured like, what sort of stories do you want to tell in the future? And I had stories that I wanted to tell, and they kind of aligned. And so I went off, wrote this thing, and came back, and then we developed the character together. To be able to prep her for the role, we had conversations. I mean, we went into very deep conversations about what it means to be alive, what it means to be alone. We looked at her own past, things that like dark histories of her own past, dark histories of mine. And then also we talked with other people who suffered from depression, and we went into that. We went down that rabbit hole together. We did a few table reads and kind of developed the character over those table reads together. And then as a result of that, we were also analyzing who's this other character and what do we want audiences to feel about this other character. What I loved about the second character as well, in prepping like our Mona, who was Noor, which actually means light, which was obviously the ironic point when she tells her like, my name is Noor, and like, she's like, of course. But the one thing I wanted audiences to be able to kind of see from Noor is they immediately see this vulnerable girl who's on the ledge that's about to take her life. And then we see this other character who seems very indifferent to this woman, but has already been through this experience that this woman on the ledge has been through, but we know nothing about. And so it was kind of a self-reflection of how we judge people before we know anything about them, and know their experience and know what they've been through. And so working through having this one character that we feel like we already know everything about is on this ledge, and then we have another character we know nothing about, and then kind of bringing those worlds together and realizing they're the same person, or they're having the same experience, or had the same experience. That was what we wanted to bring out from this conversation. And in the end, kind of developing one character and developing the other character, we went on separate journeys for each one, but really they were ultimately just supposed to meet at the same endpoint at the end. And so they did different work, but they were supposed to meet together at the end, and they knew each other, so this kind of worked out pretty well.
Yeah, no, definitely. Again, it's amazing how you can be transfixed, on this subject, and the stakes again are so high, and you just hope you're watching your film and you're just hoping there's going to be some form of resolution or enlightenment or any of these things, and there's so much in there. It's really fantastic to watch. Now, when you've got kind of such a concentrated film in a moment, you're really just in the story. I'm curious, like in terms of maybe things like production side or maybe post-production, like was there kind of any technical kind of things that were challenges for you, or any things that you kind of learned from this experience?
I'm a big proponent that cinematography needs to have its own character and needs to take on its own life. And so because this woman's on a ledge, I didn't want to have any camera movement in this entire thing. And then also we could never look down on this woman. So because we respect her experience and we respect her as a person, so we were always either at eye level or slightly below her. And then this other woman who's sitting on the ledge, as we try to like decipher what sort of character she is, we kind of like, we either like start, as she carries the conversation, we're below her because we realize she's in control of the conversation, and we just kind of like move throughout the conversation going up and down between these two characters. And then on top of that, obviously lighting had a big role to play with whether they were lying or whether they were telling the truth, and who was more honest in the conversation and who felt more broken. So we were like playing with light, we were playing with cinematography as we were going up and down, based on who's controlling the conversation. The other piece was lighting. We did a ton of scouting around Cairo because we wanted to be able to control lighting as much as possible. And we went to a bunch of locations, and just so happened that the best location that we could film at was my parents' like place.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yes. And so what ended up happening was, and the reason was, it was just me and the DP. One day we were sitting on top of like my parents' place, and we were talking, having a conversation, and we looked across, and he's like, he asked me, he's like, who owns that building over there? And I was like, my uncle, but he doesn't live here.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, we could light from there. And so that's how that conversation came along, and we had that conversation. It worked out for the best in that way. But then the problem with the location that we were in, which we didn't have in any other location, was the buildings themselves weren't high enough, so the stakes didn't feel high enough. So working with the post-production house, we ended up having to 3D model the city around us, and we did a set extension for the entire city. So we added 2 floors to all the buildings in the city to make it feel like she was at a higher location and the stakes were higher. And that starts from the beginning, where the camera starts moving on like a techno crane, and then throughout where where it's static. So it was difficult in taking out those ropes. So it was like production wise it was definitely it was an adventure. There's
watch though, honestly, the cinematography, the dynamic, the way it was designed, everything was just like, it just added the extra layer of just, you know, where you really felt it in your heart, like, you know, from what you were visually experiencing. So well done to you and all the team for making that happen. And just listen, I could honestly go into the depths and talk to you for hours just on this subject, your film, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just curious to finalize up, what is next for you?
So I'm working on a few projects right now. One is all right, so there's a documentary series that we're working on. I'm working on with a few people. And one of the people is this like Oscar nominated editor, and he's incredible. And then it's a music doc series, and it's based around the Middle East. It's gonna be fascinating. And then another one is a feature film. It's a narrative that I wrote. It's about a young man who's haunted by demons, and it's based in Egypt. It takes place in Egypt, and he discovers there's a tomb under his parents' place. Wow. And then I'm working on a sports biopic series here as well. So.
Tamer, I want to watch every single one of your projects. I'm not even, I'm like ready with my popcorn for every single one. Yeah.
Well, let's, fingers crossed, everything comes through and it goes smoothly. Like, let's hope it all comes through. I'm excited about everything. There's a lot going on, and so I'm really excited about it.
But I mean, congratulations in tapping in on so many different genres, types of, it's so nice when you can put out your work out there, and, you put yourself with all these different things, and, well done. And your film, Pause, needs to be celebrated all over the world. And I just want to commend you, like, bringing this subject to the attention, particularly for people of the Middle East. But it's so great that this film is universally gonna educate and support. So well done, honestly.
Thank you so much, Daniel. Thank you. And it was an honor to be a part of this this whole festival, part of this experience, and be able to bring it to everyone, and just to meet everyone and be a part of the great filmmakers that were on these panels, as well as the lineup that we had. So it was fantastic. So I'm honored.
Congratulations on being part of the program that was particularly celebrating incredible Middle East filmmakers with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Like, you're very special. So well done.
Thank you so much.